Hello, I'm Panos Kotzathanasis, and this is Bad Accent Video Reviews. Today we're gonna talk about All the Long Nights by Sho Miyake, a film which is based on the homonymous book by Michael Sho, which was published in 2020. Sho Miyake is a very interesting case in Japanese cinema since he has becoming a festival favorite during the last years with films like And Your Bird Can Sing and Small, Slow But Steady, with him implementing a very interesting approach that is evidently low budget, has documentary elements, and is grounded in reality in a way, however, that remains more Japanese than European art house, which is an interesting thing and quite unusual regarding the presentation of Japanese cinema in European film festivals. To get back to the movie, the script revolves around two youths. They seem to be in their 30s, early 30s or late 20s. Misa suffers from extreme PMS syndrome and has erratic personality swings that see her lash out verbally at co-workers, something that essentially forces her to quit her job. 5 years later, and she's working for a small company that makes scientific instruments for children. And while there, she meets Takatoshi, a co-worker who is silent, withdrawn, and eventually is revealed to be prone to panic attacks. A relationship between the two gradually starts forming, which is, however, not a romantic one, but rather one based on empathy, kindness, and the desire to help others with similar problems. And at the same time, inspired by a touchingly poetic narration taped long ago by their boss's deceased brother, Misa and Takatoshi plan an annual planetarium show and together discover a new way of looking at the world that expands their minds and heal their hearts in their process of getting better with the issues that they have. Sho Miyake does a very interesting thing here as he focuses about mental issues and how they have become part of reality in the contemporary world, both because medical science has now acknowledged them and because it seems that more and more people have them. In that regard, it is very interesting to see that what he does in the film is that he presents a series of people that have mental issues, but he does not present them as being something special. They are essentially normal people that have this particular issue and they try to cope with it the best way they can. They are struggling, but they are not alienated, or let's say they are not deemed as widows or anything else. They are not even victims of racism, let's say, which is how people who have mental issues are usually portrayed in cinema. This realism is one of the best aspects of the movie, and the whole thing definitely benefits from this approach. On the other hand, that almost all the protagonists seem to have some kind of psychological problem does take the whole thing big too far. We have, like, apart from the two protagonists, the boss Kazuo also suffers with grief due to the death of his brother, as we already mentioned. While Takatoshi's former boss Tsushimoto is also trying to cope with his own grief, with him and Kazuo actually being in the same relief group. Again, I get the point of presenting this as something normal, but having so many people in the same setting with mental issues goes a bit away from realism, one can say. The whole thing works, though, for the economy of the narrative. Also very interesting is that Misa and Takatoshi come very close together. They become intimate. They reveal things to each other that they have not to any other people, but the relationship never crosses to romantic territory. Takatoshi has a girlfriend who he seems to love very much. They have a relationship where she understands his problems and is somehow understanding of it, but the relief she feels as soon as she finds out that Takatoshi has found a friend in Misa where he can talk about this thing and overcome them together. She's relieved and she's not feeling jealousy, which is a very interesting and also quite realistic approach from Sho Miyake, I have to say. Okay, the way the two of them manage to gradually overcome their problems through their interactions is a very positive note that actually permeates the film. Again, however, it is grounded in reality, and we're seeing miracles like the two of them getting completely well, since, as both the doctors state, these are issues that take a really long time to get away, if they do so ever. In one of the best parts of the movie, also, Takatoshi, who tries to take care of Misa, he suggests her cleaning a car that is bound to the office, with the whole thing actually helping her very much every time she gets aggravated due to her PMS. The fact that at one point when she gets really angry and does not know what to do with her feelings, she immediately goes to clean the car on her own, suggests that the solution actually works in a very sensitive and adorable, I have to say, element of the film. It is also interesting to see how the whole realism that permeates the film is also on the details. Like, for example, Takatoshi at some point states that he needs to go to the office every Sunday, even if the corporation is closed, because if he leaves 2 days where he doesn't come to the office, then Mondays are very difficult. This is a very realistic approach to the whole thing with the panic attacks, and another notch in the great presentation of mental issues the film has. Okay, this realism also leads us to, as I mentioned before, to the documentary style of the film, which is mirrored both in the visuals of the film and the narrative. It's also interesting that this time Sho Miyake plays with this approach by having two students appearing throughout the movie as they are shooting a documentary about the company the two protagonists work, which I found it, okay, this is a meta level, maybe Sho Miyake is following the trend, but at the same time it's very, very intelligent way to do so, and also quite appealing to watch, with the two teenage students asking questions that the grown-ups can barely answer, which we see in a couple of scenes. Very, very interesting and fun to watch. Also, there is a scene when the two are fighting about how they are going to present the documentary, which can also be perceived as a comment about how movies are being shot. Again, this trick is both organically implemented in the narrative and quite entertaining in its overall presentation. And as I mentioned, the visuals, Yuta Tsukinaga's cinematography focuses on realism, as we mentioned before, with the whole thing very frequently looking like a documentary. There are some moments of visual prowess, as the whole thing with the planetarium close to the end, and the close-ups to the characters, particularly when to the protagonists, particularly when they are having their issues, also works quite well. The editing by Keiko Gava implements a laser, relatively slow pace that suits the overall aesthetics nicely. At the same time, however, the omnipresent issue with the Japanese films is here once more, as the film lags significantly, particularly towards the end, with a number of scenes that are extended for no particular reasons and other that are even unnecessary. This brings the whole thing to 2 hours, which I feel is too much for the type of the film, and maybe 20 minutes streaming would benefit the film. At least we don't have a scene by the sea to conclude the whole thing, which I guess is a tick in the pros column. Regarding the acting, again we have the actors follow the realism of the narrative. Mina Kamishiraishi as Misa Fujisawa and Hokuto Matsumura as Takatoshi Yamazoe play their characters with realism grounded to reality. And The moments when they have to emote, when they have their crisis, I'd say are very well acted, the highlights of their performance. There is no exaggeration and no theatrics, and it's grounded in reality with a sense of measure that I felt was very difficult to retain in such a role. Ken Mitsuishi as Boss Kazo is a very appealing presence throughout the film, with him always being kind, with a smile, and supportive of his colleagues. While Kiyohiko Shibukawa's presence as Tsujimoto is always a pleasure to watch. Here in Asian Movie Pals, there are a lot of us that we really love Kiyohiko Shibukawa, and it's always great to see him. Again, I have to say the fact that all the characters have some kind of mental issue. Okay, this is part of the purpose of the film, to state that having such issues is not a problem, it's actually normal. But again, I felt that this goes too far, and also because everyone presented are depicted to be very good people. Like, there is no bad person inside the movie. Even the first company that Misa is working, when she overreacts, she's dealt with understanding, and we don't see anyone forcing her to leave or anything. I felt that this may be a bit unrealistic, since racism about people with mental issues still exists and is quite prevalent, and I feel this also happens in Japan. Again, this goes to the purpose of the film, and I don't think it's such a big problem. Just considering how realistic the rest of the thing is, this gets a bit away from that approach. That's it for today. In general, I have to say that All the Long Nights is a very good film, very convincing. The message gets through eloquently, and the sense of measure Sho Miyake has is impressive. Something that he also exhibited in Small, Slow but Steady, which, however, feels a bit better film than this one. The film will screen in Toronto Japanese Film Festival in May, which is how we got the screener. And I think it definitely deserves a watch, particularly if you like the style of the director, of Sho Miyake. Thank you, that was it for today. If you like these videos, please like and subscribe, and hope to see you again in our next Bad Accent reviews. Have a nice day.